Frasign Loss. The first time I saw the island open like a shopping mall, of a dying fishing boat, with black seawater up to my ankles, watching my captain turn into coral. Captain Mercer had been human 5 minutes earlier. Mean, sunburned, loud, and greedy, but human and lost. Then, the ocean whispered his name through the fog, and white branches pushed out through his gums. He tried to scream. Only bubbles came out. Don't look at the water. He choked, grabbing my wrist with fingers already hardening into reef stone. If it offers you land, don't step on it. If it offers you food, don't eat it. If it offers you a way home. His eyes split open like wet shells. Run. Then the wave took him. The cursed sea swallowed the captain, the wheelhouse, the radio mast, and the only compass that still pointed north, Bardenas. Across the deck, canned peaches burst under my boots. Diesel rolled over the black water in rainbow streaks, and Cetrus and Loss. Somewhere below, the engine screamed like an animal being dragged under a door. I had signed on to the Maribel, because desperate and stupid enough to believe that cursed water rumors were just stories. Sailors told to raise wages. They were not stories, barst wools, and house. The ocean, it stretched in every direction beneath a bruised purple sky, endless and breathing, the she-ashen towels. Its surface covered in faint golden words that appeared and vanished, like reflections from a city beneath the waves. Every few seconds, Harneen Tao. Something huge moved under us, too deep to see, close enough to lift the whole boat on its back, from out. 3 other crewmen were still alive. Owen Pike was praying beside the winch, clutching a wrench like it could impress God. Felix Mora. Felix Mora was trying to drag the emergency raft free, even though the ropes had wrapped themselves around his boots like snakes. Crescent and Navigator, with blood running from her forehead, staring straight ahead. Land, she whispered. I followed her gaze. Then Hall Edrin at Town sat. Sal ad. It should have felt impossible. We had been 200 miles from the nearest charted rock before the storm hit. After in Loss, I'd in Louth. Cliffs covered in fruit trees, white sand, clean waterfalls pouring from stone terraces, and bright birds circling above like flags. Owen laughed so hard he started crying. Thank you, he sobbed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Captain Mercer's last warning beat inside my skull. If it offers you land, don't step on it. Felix hacked at the ropes around his feet. Shut up and help me with the raft. But Owen had already stumbled toward the rail. Are you insane? I shouted. He looked back at me with eyes shining like a starving dog's. You want to stay here. The boat is sinking, Caleb. That island has trees, fresh water. The island shimmered. For 1 second, the waterfall did not look like water, and a sounding lie and none loss. The trees did not look like trees. They looked like stacked shelves, flashed with words. Only I could see. Welcome, customer. My breath stopped on the fog. The fog peeled away from the island, and the whole world changed. The cliffs became storefront walls. The vines became green awnings. The fruit trees turned into produce displays with perfect apples, coconuts, rice sacks, medicine kits, batteries, rope, knives, rain barrels, solar panels, costets, fishing nets, boots, blankets, salt, flour, ammunition, and fuel canisters arranged in neat glowing rows. A golden sign hung above the beach, and Hacktown Icknav. Then I blinked, and it was an ordinary island. Wait, I yelled. The second his boots touched the black water, the ocean went still. not calm, interested, staring at something below the surface. His prayer turned into a wet gasp, dozens of them. Pale hands, dozens of them, pulling and sound. They looked human except for the long, golden price tags tied around each wrist. Owen screamed as they pulled him under. Jessa grabbed my shoulder and dragged me back from the rail. Do not go in. Felix stopped cutting the rope. His face had gone gray. The island's beach was barely 40 yards away, close enough to smell mangoes, close enough to hear leaves rustling in warm wind. But between us and that sand, the ocean smiled with Owen's mouth. His head surfaced once, only once. His eyes were gone, replaced by 2 polished coins. Good deal, he whispered. Then he sank. Felix vomited over the side, on main sauce. The Maribel groaned beneath us. The bow dipped lower. Black water surged across the deck and washed Captain Mercer's red cap against my boot. Honan Touth. I grabbed it without knowing why. Jessa saw me looking at the island. You saw something, she said. Her voice was sharp, not scared. That was what made me trust her more than the others. Fear makes people loud, of precise. I saw shelves, I said. Felix stared at me, down in sass. For a second, like a mall. Supplies, Felix laughed once. A brittle little sound. Great. The cursed ocean gave Caleb a coupon. Jessa wiped blood from her eyebrow. Did you see? Food, medicine, tools. I sign out. A sign I swallowed. It called me customer. The deck bucked. I helm and noth. Felix fell, and the rope around his boots tightened. He screamed as it dragged him toward the rail. I lunged and caught his jacket. Jessa grabbed my belt. Felix clawed at the deck boards, nails ripping, eyes wild. Cut it, he shrieked. The rope had changed. It was no longer rope. Pause. Sack. It was braided kelp, black and slick. Sat with tiny teeth. I swung Mercer's cap down without thinking, as if that would help. The brim sliced through the kelp cleanly. Las a shamar. All 3 of us went still. Captain's glowed faintly in my hand. A small tag hung from the back strap, though it had not been there before. Store. Credit variable. Felix scrambled away from the rail, panting. Frost sades in for Shessa. Jessa stared at the cap. You don't know anything. Fair. The boat tilted again, and this time the stern dropped so fast that the emergency raft slid free and slammed against the rail, coughing. We take the raft, he said. We row around the island. Find another way. Anything but that beach. The island brightened. The beach stretched wider. Laom Taos. A path of pale stones appeared across the water, one by one, from the Maribel to the shore. Each stone had a golden label. A safe walkway. Felix saw only rocks. Oh, thank God, he whispered, all arm before he could move. No. He shoved her hard enough to send her against the winch. I am done listening to dead men and crazy women, Felix snapped. The boat is sinking. Owen panicked. That is all. I can make it. He stepped onto the first stone. Nothing happened. He laughed. Lost house. See? He stepped onto the second. The stone clicked. The island changed for me again. Bon espas. Themselves. Music played faintly from nowhere, bright and cheerful, the kind of music that belonged in supermarkets before holidays. Above Felix, letters formed in the air. I norful the chainsome the salvo. Felix did not see them. He stepped onto the third stone, thrust in water and punched through his shoulder. His scream tore across the sea. Jessa and I grabbed him at the same time, but the hook's chain pulled harder than both of us. Hoss lost. Felix's boot scraped over the rail. Blood ran down his arm and dripped into the water, where tiny mouths opened to drink it. Please, Felix begged. Brushed Renee. It snapped. Felix collapsed against me, shaking. Heim. The island's doors closed. A receipt appeared in the air in front of my face. And lost. Crink balance. 1 store credit. Fossakurna. I stared at the glowing letters until my eyes burned. Jessa could not see them, but she watched my face. What does it say? I told her. Felix clutched his bleeding shoulder. Purchase? By seeing the Siftons. Island? The Maribel split beneath us. Not cracked. The lost. Split. The deck opened down the middle, and seawater roared up from below. The wheelhouse collapsed into the hold. Einer left for it. The radio trunce then vanished under black foam. Jessa grabbed the emergency raft line. I grabbed Felix, freighting sand. For a moment, on a broken plank, in an ocean that wanted payment. The island waited. The cursed sea whispered in 1,000 voices. I'll lend my hand. 1 store credit, I said. Jessa's eyes narrowed. Can you buy something useful? The island flickered. A glowing directory appeared above the beach, visible only to me. ISIL 1. Basic survival. Medical and repair. ISIL 3. Navigation. Osla 5s. Curse Managin. Membership. Locked. Pi. Higger balance. My heartbeat hammered in my throat. Tau. Basic survival. Lot. Weapons. On the Norn Taus. Owen. Our boat. And every sane law of the world. But for reasons I did not understand, it had not taken me, Caleb. Jessa said. The raft. The emergency raft had inflated halfway, trapped under a broken beam, Hallnit and south. Ix. Felix tried to blood on the yellow rubber. The sea rose around our knees. Another receipt appeared. Frusouters in 3 minutes. Perkhurst. Waters. Walking pass. Price. 1 store credit. Frusouse. I almost laughed. Cursed. An ocean of dead hand-sounds with price tags, and it was selling me a way to walk over it. Felix's face twisted. What? Hold on to me. Jessa did not argue, as one hand around my belt and the other in hand and Felix's collar. I looked at the island and spoke the words that felt insane even as they left my mouth. Purchase water walking pass. The red cap burned hot in my fist, flashed across my wrist. A golden under my skin like sunlight, under ice purchase. Complete. Complete. Thank you. Kustmater, Caleb Rourke. The black water bellardent. Not into ice. Not into stone. Polished mall. Tile. A square of gleaming white floor appeared under me, floating on the cursed sea. Then another formed ahead. Then another. A path. But not the island's. Mine, I asked. Felix looked down and began to cry. You can see it too, I asked, on Disum Sasti. Salit, Jessa said. The Maribel sank behind us with a long, grieving moan. We stepped onto the impossible tiles, one by one, dragging Felix between us. I'll Elmet. Beneath the drifted under the surface. Owen's coin eyes followed me. Captain Mercer's coral hand reached up, stopped by the glowing border of my purchased path. Was. Customer. The island grew closer, all little to show for it. As we reached the beach, the trees shimmered and unfolded into aisles. The sand became glossy floor. The waterfall became an escalator pouring light upward. Salamod. Sand. Birds turned into hanging signs. Into a refrigerated wall, full of bottled water, clean bandages, antibiotics, canned soup, batteries, flares, and folded tarps. Jessa stood at my side, tense and silent. Felix sank to his knees, laughing weakly. We made it. A pleasant bell chimed. Welcome to Island Supply Mall. Please enjoy your shopping experience. Then, every aisle, light turned red. A second sign dropped beneath the first. 1 hour. Unpaid customers will be collected. Felix's smile died. Duh. What does collected mean? From the far end of the produce aisle, something pushed a shopping cart into view. It looked almost like a man. Almost. Over a body made of driftwood, shells, and swollen human skin. Its head tilted too far to one side, and where its face should have been, there was only a round yellow smiley sticker. I left my ostas in a cart. As it reshiddled Calmet. Inside, it lay Owen's wrench, Mercer's compass, 3 wet boots, and a human tongue with a golden tag wrapped around it. The employee stopped 10 steps away and lifted one long finger toward Felix. Lashrost. Stored customer. Value. Medical supplies. 1 small berry pack. Dried noodles. Felix crawled backward. No, no, no. Jessa raised the broken emergency flare like a knife, though my legs were sticker face turned bedlike. The employee's sticker face turned toward me. A new message appeared. Shopping, Mall Rule 1. Every supplies has a price. Every price can be paid in currencies. Curse, blood, memory, or life, hounded and loss. Jessa, gripping the flare, and the endless cursed ocean waiting beyond the glassy beach. Jest. Then I looked down at my wrist, where the golden barcode pulsed like a second heartbeat. For the first time since the storm swallowed the world, I understood the shape of my curse. By Forn the Pagans. The sea was endless. The islands were stores. And somehow I was the only one who could shop before the ocean decided to charge everyone else. And loss. The employee reached for Felix. I lifted Captain Mercer's read the aisle signs and forced my voice not to break. Show me what's on clearance. The lights flickered. I hand in loth. And somewhere deep inside the island, cash registers began to ring. The employee's sticker face trembled as if it hated the question, and sang and soused. The island stopped pretending to be alive and became exactly what I had seen from the sinking deck, a Mollis and Ost. Emergency lighting. Its aisles, stretching farther than the cliffs should have allowed. Its ceiling hung with wet vines and cracked fluorescent panels, its polished floor reflecting black ocean water that was not there, assigned above the nearest aisle. Clearance section open. Expired promises. Returned weapons. Hive and now. Felix whimpered behind me. His blood dripped steadily onto the floor, and every drop turned into a tiny red bead that rolled toward the employee's cart. The cart swallowed them with soft clicks. Jessa saw enough to understand. Caleb, if you're going to do something, do it now. I'm trying. Try faster. The employee's long fingers curled around the handle of its cart. The yellow smiley sticker on its face peeled at one edge, revealing wet teeth underneath. A new price burned in the air above Felix. Value decreasing. Bleeding product. And Olin Papling so on. I did not know the rules. I did not know why the cursed ocean had made me a customer and everyone else inventory. Poverty same loss, and I taint tsing and loss. Lost. I knew that clearance meant broken things nobody else wanted, and broken things could still save your life if you were poor enough to learn how to use them. Show me medical clearance, I said. The floor under my boots lit up with arrows. 2 shifted toward me, locking into place with heavy metallic clacks. A whole wall of supplies appeared. Bandages in torn boxes, rusted Saint Harmorn. Expired painkillers, splints, needles, black thread, rusted scissors, and something labeled Curse Stitch Kit, with a sticker that read Missing Needles. Still, mostly effective. Price, half a memory. I stared at the tag. Jessa followed my gaze, though she could not see the words. What? It wants memory. Whose? The shelf answered. At Reducid and Tamser. A stas. Ras Tamser. Docent. Consent. Boss. Full value. With consent or restaurant. Felix heard the word memory and tried to crawl away. No, he gasped. Absolutely not. The employee's cart squeaked forward for Congressman's shoulder. Rush us, I glanced Santerre. The hook wound was deep, the blood too dark, already threaded with little white grains of coral. If we did nothing, he would become another thing the store could put a tag on. What memory? I asked. A small glass jar appeared on the shelf. Inside, it floated a strip of golden light. Recommended payment. Custmore. Last birthday with mother. My chest tightened. So suddenly, I almost dropped Mercer's cap. My last birthday with mom had been in a hospital cafeteria, Faust and then Sal. She had insisted on buying me a cupcake from the vending machine, even though chemo had left her too weak to stand without gripping the table. The frosting had been smashed against the plastic wrapper, and she had laughed when I tried to pretend it was fancy. You only turned 21 once, she had said, crusted and survival, and died. She died 8 days later. The store wanted that. My hand closed into a fist. The lights dimmed. The employee took another step. Jessa looked from me to Felix, then to the aisle. I turned to her. You don't even know what it wants. I know he dies if we don't pay. Felix shook his head wildly. I don't want her memories either. Jessa ignored him. I hated the fact that I did. Asked. Associate memory offer, I said. Because the word had appeared on the shelf. What's the price? The jar changed. Associate Jessa Vale. First low navigation. Reduced value due to non. Stacked. I'm Sal. Sal's. Blood. Jessa's face went still when I read it out loud. Felix stopped crawling. For session is it? I asked. She stared past me at nothing. For the first time since the boat sank, she looked younger than she had before. But he told me I'd never read Open Water, because I trusted instruments more than instinct. When I was 16, I took his skiff out in fog and brought it home by stars alone. Her mouth tightened. Olaf had said he was proud. But he left his compass on my pillow the next morning. The store had chosen well. It always would. Jessa stepped closer. Caleb. No. He'll die. Then I pay blood. The tag says blood isn't enough. Felix laughed weakly, and it came out wet. Fruste lost ord. I vote blood. The employee's arm shot forward. Jessa swung. The emergency flare. It cracked against the monster's wrist, bursting sparks over its driftwood bones. Alestin recoiled. The employed, not hurt, but offended. Red text flashed above its head. Customer surface incensant recorded. A cold rage slipped into me then. Not hot, heroic, cold. The kind I had felt in collection offices. When men in clean shirts explained why my mother's bills had eaten the last of our savings for a farm. And the kind had every predator had a rule. It trusted too much. Clearance means damaged, I said. That kit is missing a needle. Half a memory is too high. The aisle lights flickered. Jessa looked at me. You're bargaining. It's a store. It's a nightmare. Same thing with worse lighting. I stepped toward the shelf and pointed at the cursed stitch kit. Open box. Expiration. A label unfolded. Contamination. Possible. Return. Policy. No Haas. Desuntaste. Then half a memory is robbery. The employee froze completely. Somewhere overhead, a speaker crackled. The cheerful mall music skipped, like deep a giant inhaling under the floor. Negotiation. Detect. Customer cast defective value. Jessa whispered. Manager. At the end of the aisle where the mall dissolved into jungle shadow, two huge doors appeared. They were made of carved bone and frosted glass. Told them something or them in the aisle. Scraped the ceiling lights. Rust, Felix whispered. Please stop negotiating. I almost agreed. The store shifted, then the store shifted, and a voice rolled through the aisle with the oily patience of someone who had never needed to hurry. Dalm Sal's. The bone doors opened. The manager walked out wearing a perfect white suit. He looked human from the neck down. Clean shoes and gold cufflinks, pressed sleeves, long hands folded over a black cane. But his head was a stag skull, wrapped in strips of wet receipt paper, with antlers hung in hundreds of price tags. Each tag carried a name. Were faded. Jessa raised the flare again. Though I could tell she knew it would not help, Felix sobbed once and covered his face. The manager's empty eye sockets glowed with warm shop window light. How refreshing, he said. Most first-time customers. Panis. Either panic, overpay, or attempt theft. You have done all three. You're in charge? I am the floor. Manager of this branch. This branch, I repeated. His skull tilted, as in endless. Beyond the glass wall of the mall, the ocean rolled black and endless. For the first time, I understood that the island was not an escape from the sea. It was part of its economy. Howman. The manager tapped his cane once. Felix's price tag brightened. Your unauthorized companion is depreciating. To complete a purchase? The kit is defective, I said. Expired. Missing parts. Possible contamination. I'll pay 1 drop of customer blood. The manager's antler tags fluttered, though there was no wind. Alvin Sauter. 1 drop? For a curse-stitch kit? Not 1 drop. And the employee... Service penalty waived. The sticker-faced employee turned toward the manager. The manager clicked in town. Almost amused. Why would I waive a penalty owed to us while I was actively shopping? Silence fell so sharply that even Felix stopped crying. Price and sass. Dillard. But the manager did not immediately kill me, so I kept going. You welcomed me as a customer. Hod. I entered the store and requested clearance. Your employee reached for my companion before checkout was complete. Transaction vlouth, until his skull hovered a foot from my face. He smelled like salt, old paper, and expensive cologne. Are you inventing policy at me, Mr. Plyth? Rourke? I lied. I'm asking you to honor it. The golden barcode under my skin pulsed. For a moment, I saw something behind the manager's eyes, not anger. Interest. Then a thin paper receipt unrolled from the air between us. Pulsy searching. Is discouraged. Penalty straighting sticker. The manager hissed through the peeling sticker. An even drop of the Q shimmer. Blush red. Frad. Penalty. Reduced to a future service inconvenience. I don't like the word future. You are not required to like your receipt. A needle appeared in the air. The same the Stangelos. Not a real one. A gleaming sliver sharp as a fishbone. It pricked my thumb before I could move. Town Loth. 1 bead of blood rose, gold-edged, and floated into the curse-stitch kit. Purchase complete. The box dropped into my hands. Was sable than it looked. Inset and cracked plastic that twitched like skin. Sighed. Inside were black thread, hooked scissors, a tiny bottle of gray antiseptic, and no needle. Jessa took it from me. Work with missing. I can how to stitch wounds. I know how to close things that are not supposed to open. She knelt beside Felix and ripped his shirt away from the shoulder. Coral grains glittered around the wound. The hook had left a crescent, tear deep enough to show muscle. Felix looked at me with glassy dye. Yes, Jessa said. His mouth fell open. I honed, she added. If you stop moving, she poured the gray antiseptic into the wound. Felix screamed. So loudly, the lights above us brightened, as if the mall enjoyed it. Tan. White coral roots writhed out of his flesh, trying to escape the liquid. Jessa clamped them with the bone tools and yanked. Felix bucked, thrusting Nanas. I pinned his legs. Asked. The employee watched from the end of the aisle with its cart. Sticker smile hanging loose. Jessa used the black thread without a needle by pressing it against Felix's skin. It burrowed through on its own, weaving the wound shut in tight, ugly stitches. Each knot smoked. When she finished, Felix lay pale and shaking, but the price above his head dimmed, wide for Saboteur. Value, stabilized. Jessa wiped her hands on her pants and stood. Hal lend, for now, the manager said pleasantly. I faced him. How do they become authorized? Jessa shot me a warning look. The manager's antlers rustled with little paper sounds. Membership can be purchased. Price? For an associate pass? Modest. A golden card appeared between his fingers. Associate pass. Alas, basic protection from faction while empaneled. By custom honor, price lice. One significant secret per associate. Felix let out a cracked laugh from the floor. No. Jessa said nothing. The manager held the card toward me. Our excellent tender. Durable. Intimate. Often appreciating in value. Something that would change how at least one person sees them if revealed. Jessa's expression closed. Jessa's expression closed. The store waited, an in lot. Without passes, every minute inside this island put them on a shelf. With passes, the store would own something invisible but real. For us as secret, it was not a memory. But on this sea, ownership was never symbolic. What happens to the secret? I asked. It becomes merchandise. Can others buy it? If they find the aisle? Jessa's jaw tightened. Felix whispered, that's worse than blood. The manager smiled without lips. Lost. Auseinast. The ocean, beyond the island, rose. Through the glassy entrance, I saw the black tide climbing the beach, all with roll-like water now. It advanced like a crowd. Pale hands surfaced in it, carrying baskets. Unpaid est. Custom honors. Will be collected. I turned to the shelves. Protects us from night tide. Azel 5. Curse managed and membership locked. The manager one finger. What? Unlocks membership. Spend. How much? More than you have. I looked at the supplies around us. Food, tools, medicine, weapons. Every shelf was a promise and a threat. My advantage was not strength. It was access. For spat in itself that in law was just a better view of everything I could not afford. Turning into coral, Owen whispering good deal with coin eyes. Felix's blood crawling into a cart. The ocean was not just killing people. It was pricing them, sorting loss. Sorting them. Turning fear into transactions. To show for it. I could not fight that with a flurry. What can I sell? I asked, all with the angle show for it. The manager's skull, angled, grew colder. Jessa said, Caleb. I did not look away from him, not people. All with memories. Not secrets, What physical items can I sell? The manager tapped his cane. Frussis, a buying counter, complete with a brass bell and an old register made of bone. Beside it, signs unfolded. Cyb Phylix. Cursed relics. Parts, Arost. Parts. Parts. Yun claimed dead. Passus. Nimes freely Captain. Sessis. Captain's red cap. Captain's token. The manager noticed. It already bought the water pass. It granted store credit because ownership transferred at death. It still contains captain authority. Limited but useful. What's it worth? His cane tapped once. Captain, red cap. Value. 3 store credits. Alternative use. Command 1 abandoned vessel for 1 hour. If vessel still remembers captain. The words hit me harder than a wave. 1 abandoned vessel. I'm lost. But did Rexheads count? Jessa saw the shift in my face. Wall, what did you see? Her eyes sharpened. Our boat. Felix pushed himself up on one elbow. Our boat is gone. Not gone, Jessa said. The manager chuckled. A dangerous interpretation. Which means possible, I said. Flies. Often expensive. The night tide climbed higher outside. It crossed the white sand, turning each grain black. Where it touched the mall entrance, invisible glass hissed. For minutes. The island offered supplies. But the tide forced rushed purchases. Losh made people of memories, secrets, blood, and life. The store did not need to attack, Khan and I. It only needed to make some feel like a sale that ended soon. My mother had taught me something during the worst months of bills and collection letters. Never let panic sign the contract. I set Mercer's cap on the buying counter. I'm not selling it, I said. The manager's antlers went still. Jessa stood beside me. To command the Maribel? If she still remembers her captain. Felix looked at us as if we had both gone mad. It sank. Then we bring it up. The manager leaned on his cane. The vessel was claimed. Was it collected? A pause. The receipt paper around his skull tightened. No. Then it's abandoned. Another pause. Capucin I sound. Technically. That word tasted like victory. Use captain's token, I said. Plus. Lost. 1 hour. Rose from the counter. Spinning slowly. Salt water poured from its brim upward instead of down. A deep horn sounded mournful and metallic. Outside, the night tide stopped. Far beyond the entrance, the black ocean bulged, broke the surface. Then the Maribel rose from the sea, not whole, not alive, but obedient. Its split deck dragged itself upward, boards knitting with ropes of seaweed. The broken wheelhouse hung crooked, the radio mast sparked with blue corpse light. Coral crawled over the hull in white scars. Daub poured from its windows like breath. Felix stared with his mouth open. Jessa whispered, Mercer, you stubborn bastard. The red cap dropped back into my hands, now faded almost pink. Hefton authority in Taff. Ta. Haft. Ta. Tas. Souse. The manager watched me in silence. For the first time, his polite amusement was gone. I pointed toward the beach. Can the store sell what we salvage from the Maribel? Yes, he said. Trevel. Can the night tide collect us while Captain Authority is active? His answer came late enough to tell me he hated it. Not aboard the commanded vessel, Saul. Jessa grabbed Felix under his good arm. Then we move. The employee's cart rolled sideways, blocking the aisle, and lost. The manager did not have to. A new sign flashed above the employee, Dishnaus. Of course. The penalty, Ponsine disdained her. The employee's sticker, peeled fully away, was Owen's face. Not exactly Owen. The mouth was his, south, a stretched from waxy skin and shell fragments. But the coin eyes were his. The mouth was his. And when it smiled, it used his voice. It asked, You haven't checked out?" Felix made a strangled sound. Jess's hand tightened around the flare. The items inside shifted. Wrench, boots, tongue, compass. South and the south. Her father's compass was gone with the boat, but Mercer's compass had been in the cart, where sane ends and then lost. The captain's compass that is still pointed north, a navigation item. A possible way off this cursed branch of ocean. Compass in your cart. "Owen," I said carefully. "That compass in your cart, Townst. Not for sales." The manager said softly. "Employee-held items may be purchased only through employee contest." Contest? The employee lifted Owen's wrench. "ILS contest a variable. Winner claims one cart item by." Loser becomes Jess's. "No." Felix whispered. "Absolutely no." The night tide struck the entrance hard enough to shake the lights. 30 minutes from Lion lost. Our only protected ground, and possibly our only source of sellable salvage. But the compass sat 10 steps away in a cart, pushed by a dead man wearing a smile. A sane person would have run. Sanad and Dow had sunk with the Marable. "What kind of contest?" I asked. The employee spun the wrench once. The floor dropped, not physically, whisked and tore it. The aisle stretched side, shelves racing away, a long corridor lined with weapon racks. Harpoons, flare guns, rusted cutlasses, fishing spears, machetes, net launchers, and strange glass pistols hung under flickering lights. At the far end, a red exit sign blinked above a door leading to the beach. Between us and that door, black water poured through the ceiling in thick ropes, forming crawling things made of tide and teeth. The contest rules printed across the floor. Reach exit with cart. Item. Questmotor may assat. We abon. Associates. Store property. Associates may assist, but share. Loss condition. You're thinking about it. The compass matters. So does not dying. The Maribel Authority lasts 1 hour. We salvage, sell, buy protection, and find a route. Rust might make difference between sailing and wandering until the ocean prices our bones. She hated that I was right. Felix clutched his stitched shoulder. "I'm injured." "You're staying behind me," Jessa said. Deed and Sai said. They both looked at me. I pointed to the contest rules. Associates share loss condition. Neither of you are associates. Yet, Jess's eyes hardened. "You don't get to tell with that," did Sat. "I'm the customer. That doesn't make you captain." I held up Mercer's faded cap. "It kind of does." She stepped close enough that I could see blood dried at her hairline. "Listen to me, Caleb Rourke. I have survived bad captains my whole life to become one. Because a cursed mall printed you a receipt, that hit exactly where it should have." The employee with Owen's face laughed. I lowered the cap. "Fine, I'm sorry." Jessa blinked, thrown off for half a second. Then I grabbed a clearance weapon from the rack, horror to show for it. It was a flare gun with a cracked orange handle and a tag that read Miss First Towered Most Valuable Trekket. Price, already included in contest. I pointed it at Owen, shrieked with delight. A bell rang. Start. The cart vanished from beside him and reappeared at the far exit, Mercer's compass glowing inside it, rifling Sinloth. I fired the flare gun. It misfired backward. Hone and Nor. Rust. The flare shot over my shoulder, struck a shelf behind me, bounced off a hanging harpoon, ricocheted into the ceiling sprinkler, and exploded in a burst of red light. For one awful second, I thought the weapon had betrayed me. Then the sprinkler system turned on. It's not salt. White salt poured over the aisle in a storm, and every tied thing screamed. Their black bodies hardened, cracking into crusted statues that collapsed under their own weight. Most valuable target. Not Owen, his monsters. I ran. Owen leapt. Across the aisle, wrench raised, hold in the first swing. Should have been, his joints bending like hooks. I ducked under the first swing. The wrench smashed into a shelf of cutlasses, sending blades clattering across the floor, for sang in Owen's voice. You always were cheap. I grabbed a fallen cutlass and slashed at his arm. The blade passed through wet driftwood and stuck halfway. He headbutted me and talon astray. I hit the floor hard enough to lose breath. The flare gun skidded away, and Owen and loss again. Then, Jessa's emergency flare struck him in the side of the head. She had followed me. Of course, she had. The employee staggered, sticker glue, and seawater spraying from his skull. I said no associates, I shouted. I didn't sign anything. She shouted back. I'm just being inconvenient. Felix, pale and terrified, stood at the aisle entrance holding a net launcher almost as big as his torso. I also hate this, he said, and fired. Fruston, crooked. Missed Owen entirely, wrapped around a shelf, pulled 3 racks loose, and dumped a pile of rusted fishing spears into the path between us and the employee. Owen screamed as the salt rain intensified. The store lights flashed, frustrating, lost. Condition expanding. I sprinted toward the cart. Dan. 15. 10. Out. The salt burst from a puddle at my feet and clamped teeth around my ankle. Pain shot up my leg. I fell forward, fingers scraping the polished floor. The compass glowed inside the cart. Jessa shouted my name. Owen crawled across the ceiling now, dragging his broken body between fluorescent lights. Wrench clenched in his teeth, red cap from my belt, and slammed it onto my head. Maribel! I shouted, not knowing if the command could reach through mall walls. Crew retrieval! Outside, the resurrected boat groaned, paused. A fishing line sailed down the aisle, wrapped around my wrist, and yanked. I slid across the floor toward the cart, so fast the tide thing ripped free of my ankle. Owen dropped from the ceiling behind me, wrench swinging. The contest at a round. Mercer's compass. The contest. Bell rang. Planner. Called. Captain. Compass. Owen froze mid-swing. I seen loss. For a heartbeat, his coin eyes looked almost human. Good deal, he whispered again. Then the cart swallowed him, and hounds, out. Its metal basket folded inward like jaws. Driftwood snapped. Bokeh. Cracked. Owen's stolen face vanished under a pile of wet boots and tags. The aisle snapped back to normal. I stopped. Jessa and Felix stood near me, both breathing hard. Felix looked like he might faint. Rosissa looked, probably in that order. The manager waited by the buying counter. An entertaining first visit, he said. I held up the compass. Its needle spun wildly at first. Then it stopped pointing north. It pointed deeper into the mall. A label appeared on its cracked glass. Curse navigation, Daiwas. Points. Tow it, what the haunt wants. Jessa read my expression. Not north? No. Then what? I followed the needle, past the manager. Past and Sanager. 5. Curse management. The membership locked section. Turned out and lost it. The manager's fingers tightened. Now I knew two things. First, the compass could guide us towards survival. Second, the store did not want me carrying it. The night tide hit the entrance again. Cracks of black frost spread through the invisible barrier. Frost minutes. We're going to the Maribel, Jessa said. Yes, I said. We salvage everything we can. Felix swallowed. Then what? I looked at the compass needle, trembling, toward the locked aisle. At the manager with his antlers full of names, at the employee's cart, now sitting silent and full of dead things. Then we come back with enough credit to buy the rules. The manager laughed softly. Saft. Frust for it. No one buys the rules, Mr. Rourke. I put Mercer's cap lower on my head and started toward the beach. Then, show me the aisle where you keep whoever wrote them. Behind me, every cash register in the island rang at once. Frost. Like a dead animal forced to stand for one last command. Black water poured from her broken rails. Seaweed veins tied her split hull together, down and south. Her mast leaned that made my stomach twist, and every plank groaned as if the boat hated being remembered. But the captain's red cap on my head pulsed with authority, and the wreck obeyed. The night tide had climbed almost to the glassy entrance, fire for it. Its surface bulged with hands, baskets, and price tags. It slapped against the invisible barrier in slow, patient blows. The manager watched us from behind the buying counter. 50 minutes of command remain, he said. Less, if the vessel one arm under Felix good sends you. Boat's good shoulder. Boats don't resent. The Maribel's horn groaned once, low and bitter. Foss. Fossa. Ass. Fossa. I stepped onto the purchased water-walking tile outside the entrance. It formed under my boot with a soft golden glow, but this time it flickered at the edges. For show for it. The night tide pressed close, crowded with things that had once been sailors, tourists, fishermen, smugglers, and maybe whole families. Their coin eyes turned toward my wrist. Customer. From Systems the Four. Jessa heard something too. Her face tightened, and humped, they nor. Better. We crossed from the island to the resurrected Maribel, dragging Felix between us. The second my boot hit the deck, the red cap warmed on my head, and the boat's loose rigging snapped tight like muscles. Captain Authority. Recognized. 48 minutes. The message hung in the air above the wheelhouse. Jessa could not see it, but she felt the deck settle beside the cabin wall, and immediately checked the stitches in his shoulder. The black thread had held, but little curls of smoke still rose from each knot. Felix stared at the mall island behind us. We are going back in there, aren't we? Yes. Yes, I said. I was afraid you'd say that. We need credit. We need another ocean. Jessa looked toward the hold. What exactly can we sell? I repeated the list from the buying counter. Salvage vessel parts. Monster parts. Claimed dead. Promises with witnesses. Names freely given. Felix looked sick again. Please tell me, we are not selling unclaimed dead. We're not selling people. We are not selling people. Dead people. We're not selling them either. The Maribel shifted under us, and something below deck knocked 3 times. Jessa slowly turned her head toward the hatch. Felix whispered. What was that? The compass in my hand. Mercer's compass trembled and pointed down. Toward what the holder needed most. Not wanted. Pointed into the dead boat's belly. We salvage fast, I said. No harrowing. Anything tagged, strange, glowing, or trying to bite us gets brought up if we can do it safely. Jessa gave me a flat look. What? I asked. You just described wandering, with extra steps. I'm learning leadership. Learn faster. Felix managed a weak smile, then winced. I found a coil of rope near the mast that had not turned into kelp and tied one end around my waist. Jessa tied the other around hers without asking. Felix protested when she told him to stay near the wheelhouse, until she shoved the emergency flare into his hand and said, "Anything climbs aboard, burn it first, and apologize never." He nodded quickly. The hatch to the lower deck had swollen with seawater. Its handle was wrapped in white coral shaped like fingers. I gripped Mercer's cap with one hand and touched the hatch with the other. "Open," I said. The hatch swung a Noron. With a cracking groan, the coral fingers snapped. The hatch swung up. A smell rolled out. I nearly gagged. Diesel, rot, old fish, salt, and something sweet underneath, like fruit left too long in a closed room. Jessa leaned beside me. "I go first." "No." "Caleb, you're better with wounds. Felix may need you." "You're better with cursed receipts. I may need you." That was fair enough to shut me up. We climbed down together. The lower corridor should have been flooded. Instead, the water held itself against the walls and ceiling in trembling sheets, as if the captain's authority had ordered it was obeying to stay out of our way. A fish drifted behind the suspended water, staring through it like shoppers through glass. Astromepent, Alnistan, and a boots, I'd squelched over broken gear, loose smashed crates, and floating labels only I could seize. Mostly useless, mildly cursed, waterlogged, disputed. Jessa pointed her flare toward the engine room, for souse for it. "Start there?" The compass pointed the other way, toward the crew bunks. I hesitated. Jessa noticed. "Need not want?" "Yeah." "Then we follow it." But slowly. The crew quarters had folded inward during the sinking, leaned off their bolts. Blankets hung from the ceiling in wet strips. Owen's locker stood open, Dee's arms foul. Mine had burst apart, spilling the spare shirt, cheap paperback, and photograph. I kept in a plastic sleeve, my mother in front of the hospital vending machine, holding the smashed cupcake. The store had wanted that memory from Fori, and tucked it inside my jacket. Jessa pretended not to watch. Mercer's bunk was at the back, separated from ours by a half curtain that smelled of tobacco and salt. Plus loss. His locker, with a brass padlock shaped like an anchor. The compass needle pointed straight at it. I touched the lock. A tag appeared. Captain. Locker. Ownership transfer of variable under active command. I list now. Warning. Dow for contents. Jessa read my face again. She was getting too good at it. Hazard? Contractual. Wonderful. Paperwork was killing people. Long before the ocean got cursed. She almost smiled. I used Mercer's cap like a key, pressing the brim to the lock. The brass softened, clicked, and dropped to my palm. Inside the locker were ordinary things at first. A bottle of rum sealed with wax, a soundance for it. A tin of folded shirt. A stack of cash so soaked it had fused into a useless brick, and have in loss, and beneath in loss it. A ledger. The second I touched it, the suspended water along the walls shivered. I Ani frost. Jessa lifted the flare. The ledger's cover was black leather, swollen but intact. On the front, stamped in faded gold, were the words I could see without needing the island's magic. Registry. A receipt unrolled in front of my face. Cursed, relic detected. 12 store credits. Alternative use. Agentify. Outstanding, debts, hidden claims, and contractual weaknesses. My pulse jumped. I'm insane lies. 12 credits could buy associate passes, supplies, maybe access to curse management. Helm the rat. But alternative use meant rules. Hidden claims. Contractual weaknesses. Like a weapon. Jessa whispered. What is it? I told her. She went very still. Mercer had that? Looks like it. Then he knew more than he told us. The ledger opened by itself. Pages fluttered, though they were wet and heavy. Captains, deckhands, passengers, smugglers, island names, debts paid in teeth, songs, shadows, ships, daughters, ships, and years of life. At the bottom of one page, written in fresh black ink, I saw Owen Pick. Collected. Mercer Hollow, partially. Collected. Mora, unpending. Jessa Vale, untag. Caleb Rock, custom arst, dispute. Amenissimo for it. The world narrowed to those last three words. Customer status disputed. Jessa saw the blood leave my face. For home south ends. Caleb. The water pressed harder against the walls. A laugh echoed from somewhere in the hold. I Sue sang. Captain Mercer, frustrance and B. Well, or hook through meat. Mercer's voice rasped. Took you long enough to check my locker. Jessa swung the flare toward the ceiling. The suspended water above us bulged downward, real and to south. Pushed from the other side, made of coral and Captain's beard and cloudy eyes. Mercer's mouth opened that cracked the reef around his cheeks. I stumbled back, all with Sal, mostly dead neural fingers pressed against the water sheet, unable to break through completely. Cap looks stupid on you, boy. I forced myself not to touch it. About the island. I knew about plenty. You let us sail into this. Mercer's face twisted. Let you? The sea calls who it wants. Frust and loss. Jessa's voice went cold. Owen died. Owen was always going to die. Man prayed too loud and bargained too cheap. The flare shook in Jessa's hand. I'm loth. What does step customer status disputed mean? Mercer's. Coral eyes shifted toward my wrist. That barcode isn't a gift, and Lars. It's bait. The ledger pages fluttered faster. He continued, voice low and rough. The ocean doesn't make customers out of kindness. Wise. Buyers. Brokers. Rostaus. Long enough. Or premium inventory if they don't. The words hit like cold water down my spine. The manager had called me refreshing. I dang and lost. The store had not chosen me because I was special in a heroic way. It had chosen me because I could be useful. Jessa said, how do we remove it? Mercer laughed again. Aloth. You don't. You either spend your way up, get sold down. I gripped the ledger hard. What's the weakness? His grin faded. The ledger identified contractual weaknesses, I said. Tell me yours. The coral around his mouth tightened. Careful. No. Belandis here. You wanted someone to find it. I wanted someone useful to find it. Then be useful back. Mercer's face pressed farther through the suspended water. A tiny crack opened in the sheet between us, and black seawater dripped onto the floor, but beside me. He's breaking through. The ledger burned cold in my hands. The page turned, stopping on Mercer's name. Partially selected. Dept origin. Captain. Bargain. 3 years ago. Final. Breath. Final breath. Weakness. Captain authority. Astan. Coctions afforded. Ist held by living sings or. Must singsior. Must emissio. A true command. Ponstum sales. What's a true command? I asked. Mercer's coral fingers punched through the water sheet. Jessa jabbed the flare at them and steam hissed. Mercer snarled. Don't. Then answer him, she snapped. His eyes locked on mine, for a second under the coral and curse. I saw the man who had warned me before the wave took him. A true command costs something, he said. Not credit, loss, and fairness, authority. You spend part of your right to command the vessel. The Maribel groaned around us. Time. Reming, 39 minutes. The ledger showed another line. A variable true command, cargo. Circe, hidden cargo. Seal hull against night tide. Ride in Foss. Depth. Each command had a price. Release sit soust. Surface hidden cargo would spend 15 minutes. Seal hull would spend 20. Part. Sail without wind would spend 30. Reject captain's debt would consume the token entirely. Hidden cargo. Hastery. Mercer had brought us here with debt enough to hide. What cargo? I asked. Mercer's grin returned, but weaker now. That's the question. Jessa glanced. If we surface it, we lose time. We need credit. We also need the boat protected from the night tide. Felix screamed above deck. The decision vanished. Jessa and I ran. We tore through the corridor, or up the ladder, and burst onto the deck from Laos, holding the emergency flare in both hands. Around the Maribel, the night tide had risen into tall, human-shaped columns. They could not climb aboard yet, but they leaned over the rails with baskets open, waiting. Hennon was maud. At the bow, the sticker-faced employee's cart, Owen was gone. Something worse had taken his place. Lonely himself. A woman stood behind the cart, her body wrapped in cashier tape, her hair dripping black water over a uniform name tag that read Lorna, Homestead Lost. Her face for the cash register drawer. Embedded in her chest, opening and closing with hungry little dings, and being in North and then Law. Had not ended with Owen. Foreign. It had upgraded. She asked for my receipt. The cashier smiled. All wounded goods require verification. I lifted the ledger. He's not goods. Claim pending, she sang. The night tide columns swayed closer. Jessa whispered, we need the hull sealed. Seal hull. Against. Night tide, 20 minutes. Command window, 38 minutes. Enough to surface hidden cargo. No. No. Cost 15, leaving 3. Maybe enough to escape. Back to the island. Not enough to sail. But if we did not seal the hull, the tide would board us and collect Felix before we sold a single bolt. Promin South. The cashier stepped onto the rail. Felix's stitches smoked. True command, I said, and the red cap tightened around my head like a crown of rope. The hull loss. My voice came out deeper than I expected. Seal the hull against night tide. The cap burned. 20 minutes, vanished from the glowing timer. Command window. 18 minutes. The Maribel screamed. Nail, rough, and scar of coral flashed gold. Seaweed veins hardened into black iron. The split in the hull clenched shut. Half. The rail rose higher, twisting into a jagged barrier. The night tide columns slammed into it and burst apart in showers of black foam. The cashier fell backward into her floating cart, half delirious. That's right. Stay in the water. Lorna's cash register chest dinged by and lost. Temporary protection, she said sweetly. Eventually, Jessa looked at the timer. I could see reflected faintly in my eyes. How much time? 18 minutes. Her jaw tightened. What else? Surface hidden cargo costs. 15. Felix groaned. Of course there's hidden cursed cargo. The compass in my hand swung toward the stern. The ledger's pages flipped, stopping at a diagram of the Maribel. Below the fuel tanks. Below the fish hold. There was a compartment that should not have fit inside the boat. Hidden cargo hold. Accessible only under Captain Authority. High value. Higger. All in town in the shide. The island mall glowed behind her, aisles shining through jungle leaves. The manager had not come outside, but I could feel his attention like a hand on the back of my neck. Rastin and lost. That meant I had to use it. Surface hidden cargo, I commanded. Jessa grabbed my arm. Caleb, that leaves almost no time. I know. Do you? No. The cap burned again. Command window. 3 minutes. The Marable's stern dropped. The deck split open behind the fish hold, not breaking, but unfolding. Dal in to show for it. Board slid aside, iron ribs flexed. A black compartment rose from below, like a coffin being pushed out of the sea. It was chained shut with silver links. At the center hung a lock shaped like a mouth, sewn closed. The ledger printed one line. Cargo belongs to the first Lear opens it. Felix stared, processing a hand. What does that mean? Jessa gave a short, humorless honest. Should touch it. The cashier in the water leaned forward, suddenly eager. Open cargo, she whispered, poured inside. I stepped toward the compartment. Jessa caught my wrist. Read the wording again. I did. First liar. First liar for thieves. Or a test for captains. Mercer's voice rasped from below deck. Faint and amused. Holtouth. Careful, boy. I looked toward the suspended water in the hatch, where coral fingers still scratched somewhere beneath. He wanted this opened. Maybe needed it. Hid in the helmthus, where I could find it. I thought of the listed commands. Reject captain's debt. Frussel line grain. Most expensive command. The one that would consume the token entirely. Mercer's bargain had used vessel. Crew under emergency clause. Final breath. Crussing than Harris. Be part of that debt. If I opened it wrong, I might become the liar it belonged to. So I looked at Jessa. What? Ask if I know what's inside. Her eyes narrowed, then understanding. Clicked. Caleb, she said carefully. Do you know what's inside that cargo hold? I placed my hand on the sewn-mouth lock. The lock shivered. The word was true. I am lost. The chains loosened. The cashier shrieked. The compartment opened. My all inside was not treasure. It was a door. A small, upright door made of dark wood. Standing in the cargo hold without walls around it, hung its plaque. On its surface hung a brass office. One-time access. Personnel only. Beside the door sat 3 crates. The first crate was full of silver cans, labeled still water. Each one tagged as safe from minor curses. Lost. The second held flantibiotics, dried rice, batteries, and compact solar lamps. The third held a glass jar containing a living black pearl the size of my fist. The ledger trembled. Cursed relic. Debt Pearl. Valley, 50 credits. Alternative, use. Pay, transfer, or reverse 1 Rashtrad debt. 50 credits. Enough to buy access? Access? Supplies, associate passes, maybe protection from the night tide, but they read the silence. Reverse 1 registered debt. Jessa read the silence. Important? Her eyes went to verse debt. Then the island. Then the tide. Als, 1 registered debt. Taus, 1 registered debt. Mersaus, Frussaus. Do not touch that pearl. The whole Marable shook. The cashier's cart slammed against the sealed rail, and Lorna screamed in sudden hunger. Store property! Store property! The manager appeared at the mall entrance. Not walking, appearing. His white suit shone under the red island lights, and every price tag, hanging from his antlers, fluttered violently. Customer Caleb Rourke, he called across the black water. Ho for it. But the ocean went quiet beneath it. That item is not part of your membership tier. I picked up the jar. The black pearl rolled inside, reflecting my face as if I were standing at the bottom of the sea. The ledger page turned. Frustrated, debts in Renage. Mercer, Hal. Bargain. Felix Mora, claim pending. Frustin lost. Caught. Caleb. Rock. Customer stack disputed. Island Supply Mall Branch 7. Managerial quota on the last line. Managerial quota. There it was. And sent. Frustowning and lost. A hidden claim. A contractual weakness. Cult, the manager's skull tilted slightly, as if he knew exactly what I had read. Stepped close. Caleb, the command timer flashed. 1 minute. Van Sesting van the Bloth, Ines. The sealed hull would hold after Uth longer obey. We had 1 minute of captain command, 1 debt pearl, 1 branch transfer door, hull in and lost. 3 crates, a cursed ledger, a compass pointing toward what I needed most, Allwood and Climax, across the water, who suddenly looked less like a god and more like a debt collector behind, on numbers. The public climax would not happen here. Not yet. Bus. We were not strong enough to destroy him. Bus time. But for the first time, I saw the trap that could. I shoved the debt's pearl jar into Jess's hands. Guard this. Her fingers closed around it. With what army? I grabbed the crates and dragged them toward the hatch, with Felix's bad attitude. Felix blinked. My what? The manager lifted his cane. The night tide rose above the sealed rail like a wall. Return store property, he said. The ledger in my hand burned open to the branch transfer office door. Reper's destination, the compass needle. Then beyond it, toward somewhere. Impossible. I understood. The door did not lead home. Another branch. Another store. What? The sale. A place to spend Krustanath. And come back with enough credit to buy the locked aisle and expose the manager's quota in front of whatever watched him. I jammed Mercer's compass against the door plaque. Destination, I said. The Serd is to survive. The door handle turned by itself. Behind it was not a room. It was daylight, stretched under a blazing white sun. Beyond it stood another island. This one, shaped like a ruined resort. Its hotel towers wrapped in vines, its windows glowing with signs. Outlet Branch. For it. Bulk Samager on duty. Jessa laughed once, breathless. Fake. It sounds discounted. Felix carrying 2 supply packs from the crate, his face shiny with sweat. I love discounts now. Move. The command timer flashed. Poinance. Mercer's coral hand burst from the hatch behind us. His face followed, cracked and furious. Holcine in law. Mine. I looked at the man who had sold his vessel, his crew, and maybe every desperate person who ever trusted him. He was trapped between captain and cargo, between debt and collection, between dead and useful. Then I gave my last true command, fray it. Maribel, Ashiek Mercer's debt. The red cap disintegrated on my head. The boat screamed so loudly the ocean recoiled. Mercer's coral body froze halfway out of the hatch, the white reef covering him, shattered piece by piece, revealing the terrified old man underneath for one final second. No, he whispered. A receipt printed in the air. Call a teleral relassus. Assal. Vessel free. I and loss. Mercer, Hallow fully collected. The sea took him, with silence. Asked, Austin and Sald. Collapsed to salt and paper. And the wind scattered him across the deck. The Maribel's broken planks glowed once, then settled. No longer commanded. By show for. No longer cursed by his bargain. Just ruined, exhausted. The manager's voice cut across the water like a blade. Asandation. Frussant. I picked up the Tide debt registry. Jessa held the pearl. A billet de sayer. Town is for it. Felix Tide smashed. Through the rail. We ran through the door. On second. I looked back and saw the manager standing at the mall entrance. Still polite. Still perfect. His antlers heavy with names. And his quota written in a ledger, and he had failed to keep me from reading. I lifted the compass. It pointed through the door ahead. Val. Out. Toward what I needed most. Next time, I called, print your weaknesses smaller. Then the branch transfer office door slammed shut between us and the cursed sea. Felt too hot to be real. Behind us, the door shrank into a driftwood frame, cracked down the middle. In front of us, the ruined resort island glittered with broken glass, old luxury, and clearance signs swaying in the dry wind, hung at the vine-choked hotel entrance. Welcome to Owlet Branch. All disasters must go fast. Felix dropped to his knees and laughed until he coughed. Jessa stood beside me, with the debt pearl tucked under one arm, the Tide debt registry under the other, and a look in her eyes I had not seen before. Not fear. If I lost, she said. What we have, she said. I looked at the resort, the supplies, the compass, the ledger, and the endless cursed ocean beyond the red beach. Harnick the rules. The second would give me inventory. And when we returned to Branch 7, I would not come back as a panicked customer begging for clearance. Frat. I would come back with credit, debt, witnesses, and a receipt sharp enough to cut the manager's smile off his skull. The resort doors opened by themselves. Somewhere inside, cash registers began to ring like war bells. A sound south. The ruined resort island did not smell like rot. That made it worse. Branch 7 had smelled like salt, wet paper, and things that had drowned badly. Smelled like lemon floor cleaner, hot sand, and expensive hotel soap. Its white towers rose from the red beach in three trests. In three broken crescents. Mound windows, shattered, but still shining. Balconies wrapped in vines, heavy with silver fruit. The main entrance had once been grand enough for honeymooners and CEOs. Diane traded. At glass doors, in the dry wind. All disasters must go. Felix stared at it with the exhausted hatred of a man who had been nearly sold twice in one day. I miss normal stores. I used to complain when they charged extra for bags. I was a fool. Jessa shifted the Tide debt registry under one arm and the debt pearl under the other. Fawn at me no danger. No, I said, it means bad inventory control, loss. She glanced at me. You're enjoying this too much. He said, Souse. I'm terrified. You bargained better terrified. That's how I paid rent. The compass in my hand pointed straight through the resort doors. Hide. Not safety. Not home. Foss and Soust. Soust the inside. Not revenge. We dragged the supply crates away from the broken driftwood door before it could collapse completely, laughing. The one that had carried us from the Maribel. No taller than a child and thin as old cardboard, its brass plaque had gone blank. One-time access meant one time, by Hounder Sass. Branch 7 and the manager were behind us for now. But not Winder Sand. Beyond the beach, Lescombe sloped into a parking lot, filled with cars that had never driven on any road. Luxury sedans sat beside fishing boats on trailers, food trucks, ambulances, golf carts, and one rusting city bus with seaweed hanging from its mirrors. Visipta. Parts. Only. Contaminated. Mildly haunted. One ambulance had its rear doors open. Inside were sealed medical cases. Felix saw me looking and immediately stepped behind Jessa. No. We need antibiotics. We have antibiotics. We need more. We also need to not be eaten by a haunted ambulance. Jessa passed him the debt pearl. Hold this. Felix recoiled. Absolutely not. It's worth 50 credits and can reverse a debt. Hold it with both hands and scream if it whispers. He took the jar like she had handed him a sleeping snake. Heinlaw. Said its thigh. Black and glossy, were sacked, reflecting all three of us upside down. I approached the ambulance with the captain's compass in one hand and Mercer's bone-handled knife in the other. The knife had picked up a label sometime after we escaped. Value. Alternative. Use. Cut minor claims. Sever weak. Contract. Finance. Desalmers. Not impressive, but on this ocean, anything that cut contracts was better than gold. The ambulance lights flashed once. A voice from the speaker whispered, "Patient?" "No," I said. "I'm lost." "Customer." The rear doors opened wider. Inside, a menu appeared in glowing red letters. Emergency medical clearance. Frustic salad cassis. Price. 5 store credits or 1 confession of cowardice. Felix yelled from behind Jessa. Store credits. Plea. I looked around the parking lot. Can I trade salvage on site? The ambulance speaker crackled. Outlet policy. Barter sipped. Mercer's cash. From his locker, a broken radio handset, 3 brass hooks, and the empty rum bottle sealed with wax. The ambulance considered. Value. 1 store. Credit. For salad and handled knife. Jessa stepped closer. Are you sure? It only cuts minor claims, I said. I minor claims on your throat. She was right. I took the knife back and looked at the ambulance. What about labor? A pause. Husmal labor. Task variable. Remove occupant from driver's seat. Payment. Medical bulk. Lot and 3 store credits are sent out. Something sat in the driver's seat. It wore a paramedic uniform. I honed in asked. A bright oxygen mask covered its face, though no tank was attached. Its head turned slowly toward me, and the mask fogged from the inside. Jessa sighed. Of course there's an occupant. The compass needle twitched toward the ambulance. Then the hotel. Then back to the ambulance. Need. Not want. Felix's voice, I saw, rose. No. Not all right. Bow with little to show for it. Right? Jessa picked up a tire iron from the parking lot. Its tag read bent but honest. We do it fast. We opened the driver door. The paramedic did not move. A name tag on its chest read Ed Wynn. Around its neck hung a laminated card. Stap. Stuck on shift. Claim type. Minor employment loop. For Siam Soust. Minor claim. I almost laughed. Honest not. Edwin, I said carefully. Your shift is over. The paramedic's oxygen mask hissed. We're relief. Unauthorized. Jessa leaned in, voice calm in the way she had been calm, while stitching Felix's shoulder. The resort is in liquidation. No manager on duty. Customer labor. That means temporary staff can be assigned. The paramedic's hands tightened on the wheel. The ambulance display flickered. Polished my hoss. Repairs. Bad G. Thought. Felix. Still holding the Morjar nodded toward the paramedic's laminated card. That's a badge, right? It's his, I said. So relieve him and take it. Jessa gave him an approving look. Bad attitude has uses. Felix smiled weakly. I prefer tactical complaining. I used the captain's knife and cut the strap around Edwin's neck. The blade hissed through something invisible, the transout. The air snapped like a rubber band breaking. Edwin sagged. The oxygen mask fell away, revealing not a monster, but a young man's exhausted face, pale and translucent, frusums on us for the first time. "Is it over?" he whispered. "For you," I said, "en loss." He looked toward the hotel towers and shuddered. "Do not trust the spa." Then he dissolved into warm dust on the driver's seat. The ambulance register chimed. Bonus. Medical bulk, lot, bonus. 3 store credits. Addlesome Staus. The laminated badge reprinted itself in my hand. Temporary outlet staff. Corridors. A limited the duration. Felix stared. Jessa opened the medical cases and checked the seals. "We have antibiotics, sutures, antiseptic, painkillers, splints, and 2 blood bags that I am not asking questions about." "How long is limited duration?" I asked. The badge answered, "En loss." Are clocked out," Felix groaned. "I hate that." The compass swung hard toward the hotel entrance. Brussels light Taoth. We loaded the medical cases onto a luggage cart, added the supply packs, and pushed everything through the resort doors. The lobby was enormous. Sunlight poured through the broken glass ceiling, palm with little to show for it. A dry fountain stood in the center, filled not with coins but with teeth. Check-in counters curved along the far wall under glowing signs. Damaged blessings. Wather, emphasis, lot. My breath caught. Curse management. Not a locked premium aisle. Here, an outlet. The compass pointed straight toward it. And Jessa noticed my face. There. Felix hugged the pearl jar to his chest. "Great, hack encounter. That sounds healthy." A bell rang above us. Something moved behind the check-in counter. Towels. I lost. A clerk, seashell buttons, and a porcelain face, painted with a perfect hospitality smile. "Welcome, temporary staff," it said. "Outlet branch is operating under liquidation protocol. Heading in loss. Debts or disasters for markdown." I set the tied debt registry on the counter. The clerk's porcelain smile cracked. Jessa saw that and leaned closer. "It knows the ledger." "Good," I said. "I want a valuation." The clerk's towel fingers hovered above the cover, but did not touch it. "Registry value. 12 store credits." "No," I said. "Fresh sales. Pricing. This is outlet. Bulk salvage accepted. Stritwich not on duty. Hidden claims, contractual weaknesses, and 1 managerial quota tied to branch 7. That's strategic inventory." The clerk's smile cracked wider. Felix whispered, "You're doing the terrifying coupon thing again." I kept my eyes on the clerk. Valuation. The counter lights flickered. Reappraisal request filed. Ferry setted. Branch 7 managerial quota record. Sensitive. 30 store credits. Jess's eyes sharpened. "Don't sell it, I won't." The clerk said, "Alternative use available. Registry may support formal audit challenge if paired with debt pearl and witness testimony. Formal audit challenge. First throw in the towel. Own it." The manager's polite skull face appeared in my memory, his antlers full of names. "No one buys the rules, Mr. Rourke. Maybe not. But audits were not purchases. They were disasters with paperwork." "What happens if we challenge Branch 7's manager?" I asked. The clerk's voice dropped into something less cheerful. "If challenge succeeds, managerial quota reverses onto manager. Collected names become evidence. Improperly claimed is released or compensated. Customer status dispute is resolved by audit authority." My wrist burned. Resolved. What if it fails? Challenger becomes promotional inventory. Felix shut his eyes. I knew there was a bad part. Jessa tapped the pearl jar. "We need witnesses." The clerk nodded. "Bellman. Minimum 3. We have 3," Felix said. Witness must possess claim, loss, or standing against audited branch. Felix, Eustace pointed at his shoulder. I was almost sold. Standing accepted, Jessa said I was targeted as associate tender and entered the branch under coercive survival conditions. Standing. Accepted. They both looked at me, my with barcode pulsed. Customer status disputed, I said. The clerk bowed its porcelain head. Ledger. 3 witnesses. Debt. Pearl. And inventoried. Audit must occur in originating branch, in public transaction space, before tide, staff, and inventory. Of course. Not survive back. Not sneak back. Where he was strongest. I asked the question anyway. How do we get there? The clerk pointed toward the far hallway. Worth and lost. Employee corridor. The temporary badge warmed in my pocket. The corridor behind the check-in counter was narrow, painted beige, and completely ordinary except for the fact that the walls breathed. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, acetowning, Isessi, with labels that made my skin crawl. Lost children, one claimed honeymoons, and paneled break room. Managerial. Oversight. Branch transfers. The compass pointed to the final door. Before we reached it, the door marked M. Lost. Break room opened. 3 staff members stepped out. One was a bellhop, with two was a maid, whose face was hidden by a curtain of wet hair, Thigh's hat, and carried a cleaver made of frozen soup. All 3 looked at my badge. Then at Jessa, Frustin Loss, Nort. The bellhop smiled with 6 mouths. How'd he asked. The badge in my pocket flashed. Hostile staff action. Hos my. Ist with equipment. Jessa did not wait for approval. She hurled the tire iron into the bellhop's knees. Elinus Eng. Ah. Felix. I caught it against my chest as the chef lunged. The cleaver came down, freezing the floor where it struck. I slipped, slammed into a housekeeping cart, and saw a spray bottle labeled industrial, holy water, diluted. I grabbed it and sprayed the chef in the face. He shrieked as steam burst from under his hat. Jessa ducked under the maid's clawed hands. Ripped sheet from the housekeeping cart, ripped a sheet over the maid's hair. Felix! He fired a flare cartridge from the cracked flare gun we had brought from Branch 7. It misfired into the ceiling, hit a sprinkler head, home, bounced down, and landed in the housekeeping cart. Town louse. The cart exploded in clean white towels. Hundreds of them burst outward, wrapping around the hostile staff like bandages. The bellhop fought, 6 mouths cursing. Assign law. Loss. The chef's cleaver froze 3 towels before the rest smothered his arms. The maid vanished under a twisting cocoon of hotel linen. A sign blinked. Conflict resolved. Damaged linen charged to branch overhead. Felix stared at the flare gun. And Orn Loss. I'm starting. Jessa grabbed his sleeve. Move before the towels unionize. We ran. The branch transfers door opened onto a small office with 1 desk, 1 clock, and 1 elevator. Only words. Too early. Too late. Just in time. The elevator doors opened. Inside, buttons listed branches. High lot. Branch 7. Outlet branch. Funerel. Kayakask. Halas. Kift. Depth Tess. The button for executive depths was covered by a locked glass panel. Pressed. Branch 7. The elevator music began immediately, bright and cheerful. Felix leaned against the wall, sweating. When we arrive, what's the plan? I looked at the Tide debt registry, the debt pearl, the compass, and my barcode. The manager believes everything is a transaction, I said. So we give him one in public. Jessa's eyes narrowed. And the reversal, we make his quota his debt. The elevator dinged. The doors opened into the center of Island Supply Mall, directly beside the dry fountain where the sticker-faced employee's cart had first appeared. But Branch 7 had changed, was inside now. Black water covered the floor ankle-deep. Shelves floated. Dens sparked overhead. Dozens of collected things stood in the flooded mall. Drowned sailors, coral fishermen, shell-faced tourists, staff in torn vests, all silent, all tagged, and law and for it. At the far end, under the glowing sign for curse management, the manager waited in his white suit. His cane rested in both hands. His antlers hung heavy with names. Customer Caleb Rourke. Nursed. His voice rolled through the mall, and every collected face turned toward us. Felix whispered, "Public enough." I stepped forward, water rippling around my boots. I came to file a formal audit challenge. The mall lights went white. A bell rang so loudly the shelves shook. Identaminets. Trust, ledger, debt, instrument, pine loss, witnesses. Public transference in space. All four lines checked themselves in gold. The manager's antler tags began to flutter. "You have no idea," he said softly. "I know you had a quota." The collected things stirred. The managerial dishevel tilted. I opened the Tide Debt Registry. Island Supply. Mall. Branch 7. From Sensind, sensitive. You were not just serving the ocean. You were behind on collections. His cane clicked once against the floor. Careful. You marked Felix as goods before checkout, all traded in souse. You priced associate secrets under coercion. You hid curse management behind premium access, while Night Tide forced survival purchases. And you tried to reclaim store property after Captain Authority surfaced it legally. The mall grew colder with every sentence. Jessa stepped beside me. Jessa stepped beside me. I witnessed coercive pricing. Felix lifted his stitched shoulders. My barcode burned under my skin. I witnessed disputed customer marking, used as bait. The manager laughed then, but the sound was too sharp. "And what debt instrument do you offer? Temporary little shopper." Jessa handed me the jar. Press some souse, the town loss. The debt pearl rolled. Like a black moon. The manager went perfectly still. Every collected thing in the mall leaned forward. I held the jar high. Debt pearl. Alternative use. Pay, transfer, or reverse. One registered debt. The manager's voice lost its polish. That pearl belongs to Branch 7. It was hidden cargo under Captain Authority. Cargo belonged to the first liar who opened it. I looked straight into his glowing eye sockets. I opened it with the truth. The Tide Debt Registry slammed open in my hands, pages flying until they reached the manager's record. Frusivan managerial quota. Requile cautions, 100. Qualified claims per sickles, Wortfall. 37. Bauer Kamith, Quartfall. Improper claims include Owen Peak, Felix Mora, Mercer Hallow Crew, Clee. Assured walkway victims, Cosmoner Step Dispas. Caleb, Rourke initiated to create transferable broker claim. Appeared in the air for everyone to see. A murmur moved through the collected dead. Owen's coin-eyed face appeared near the employee cart, trapped inside its metal basket, swirled in a puddle. Mercer's coral faces lifted from shelves, from baskets, from jars, from price tags. The manager raised his cane, the mall to Santaus and Taos. Shelves became walls, henned and live. The night tide rose behind him like a black curtain. His white suit split along the seams, revealing receipt paper wrapped around bones too long to fit inside human shape. His stag skull widened antlers scraping sparks from the ceiling. All think the rules save you? He roared. I am the rules you survived. There it was, the largest lie in the room. I smiled, though my hands were shaking. No, I said. Your middle management. The silence after that was beautiful. That was. That was worth almost dying for. The not with his body, with every price tag on his antlers. They crossed the mall like paper knives, each one carrying a name. They sliced through shelves, through water, through the air around my face. Jessa shoved Felix down, inornal for it. I raised the Tide debt registry, and the tags struck its open pages instead. Names burned into the ledger. Evidence. All against him too late. I smashed the debt pearl jar against the registry. Rust. Black light spilled over the pages. Instrumental activated. Select. Deb. Then the line lot. The manager charged through the water. Antlers lowered. I pressed my bleeding thumb to the line. Marked Branch 7, Managerial Quota. Reverse this debt onto the manager who created it. The pearl dissolved into ink. Town and Cinchron. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then every tag hanging from the manager's antlers turned toward him. His skull jerked back. No. The collected dead whispered with him. But their voices were different, not obedience. Recognition. Watts slapped on to his suit. Owen Pick. The manager staggered. Felix Mora. Claim. Lost. Another. Cree Lee. Shh. Costmoder. A broker cur. Claim. Tags flew from shelves, carts, baskets, jars, walls, and the night tide itself. They covered his white suit, his cane, his antlers, his skull. Each one rang like a register closing. The manager screamed and lost. That's the curse management behind him. Inside was not an aisle. Suts. It was a courtroom made of black water and fluorescent light. Pressure from beyond Embaus. I saw pressure. Depth. Executive authority. A receipt unrolled from the ceiling to the flooded floor. Challenge. Sustained. Managerial wortfall reversed. Improper. Claims released or compensated. Rome were stoused. Caleb Rekirk. Recognized. Independent standing. Broker claim removed. Burned white hot. I cried out and dropped to one knee. Jessa caught my shoulder. Panminionite. The hook I had never known was there, pulled free. For the first time since the cursed sea marked me, my heartbeat felt like mine alone. The manager collapsed in the black water, covered in names. His antlers cracked. His polite voice came out broken. Caleb Van Loss. I walked toward him slowly. Around us, collected people began to change. Some dissolved into warm light, froth. Bodies again coughed seawater onto the floor. Some remained ghosts. But their price tags fell away. Owen's coin eyes shattered, and for a breath, he looked like himself. Caleb, he whispered. I'm sorry, I said. He gave a tired smile. Connery. Then he was gone. Felix touched his shoulder as above him vanished completely. His stitches stopped smoking from the mod out. The manager crawled backward, dragging his tag-covered body toward the open curse management doors. You cannot leave me like this, he said. Frust, I looked down at him. Before I knew there were parts, before malls grew from islands and oceans-priced souls on a dying boat, listening to a captain tell me to run. Now I was standing in a flooded mall with a ledger full of proof to sound, and a manager who had mistaken panic for consent. He reached for my boot. Customer service, he rasped. Please. I leaned down and took Mercer's faded red cap from the water. Somehow, after disintegrating, just the torn brim with salt crusted along the edge. I placed it on the manager's skull. It looked stupid on him, all a little to show for it. Show me what's on clearance, I said. The collected dead laughed. The curse management doors pulled him in. My office Talfet. The manager's scream printing somewhere, very far below. Then the doors closed. The mall lights softened my home and asked. The night tide receded from the floor, dragging broken price tags with it. Shelves settled. The entrance opened to a gray morning sea, not normal, but quieter, printed in front of me. Package of variable. Improper claim server credit. 70 store credits. Am I hun-in-law? Curse management. Access. Unlocked. Felix stared at the glowing shelves as if he could finally see some of them. Lost. Jessa looked at me. Temporary control? I looked out at the endless cursed ocean. Every island was a store. Every store had rules. Every rule had a seam. Branch 7 was only one branch. Alaptata in South Samsal. Somewhere beyond the horizon, other managers were turning shipwrecked people into inventory. Other customers were being marked as bait, and other crews were stepping onto safe walkways that were anything but safe. I could buy a way home. I knew that. I Halinurnor and lost. The compass in my hand, the compass in this hand, point near the exit, a plain blue door with sunlight under it, and the smell of city rain coming through the cracks. Home, bills, and happened D's, and less, empty apartment. My mother's photograph on a cheap table, a world that would never believe what happened here, followed my lost. Toward what I needed most. Jessa followed my gaze. Is shouth I fi. No, I said. Felix groaned. That means he's going to try. I smiled for the first time without feeling like the ocean had forced it onto my face. We buy supplies first, I said. Real ones. Food was medicine, weapons, maps, curse protection. For Sal. Then we turn this branch into something useful. Jessa crossed her arms. Useful how? I looked at the empty employee vest floating near the cart. The unlocked curse management doors, the audit receipt, and the shoreline where the cursed ocean waited. A store that doesn't eat the desperate. Slicks. Desperate. Felix blinked. Dachor sated town. Downed. Can we still have discounts? Especially discounts. Jessa shook her head, but she was smiling. We spent the first 10 credits on associate passes that did not require secrets. We spent 20 on curse-resistant hull plating for the first salvage boat that answered our flare. My San and Milifant South. Fistin. Fist, fin, solar lamps, and weapons that promised not to misfire unless emotionally necessary. We spent 5 on a sign. Jessa picked the wording. My Sunjawivel. Felix insisted on adding another underneath. No haunted ambulances without warning. The store accepted both. By sunset, Branch 7 no longer played cheerful mall music. It played the sound of waves against a harbor wall. The employee carts emptied themselves. The old shelves rearranged into clear aisles. The curse management doors stayed open, frustiparist. And at the entrance, where the Captain Mercer's torn, red brim beside the first receipt I had ever earned. Not as a trophy, as a warning. Lysum South. Enloft. Enlar. The ocean was still cursed. But now, when an island rose from the fog and tried to price the living, I knew how to read the tag, dispute the charge, and make the monster behind the counter honor its own rules. And it's even hound said alas, enemy. The cashed registers rang, they sounded like freedom.